back this up a little bit. This is going to be part B to Michael Heiser's explanation about the flat earth passages and the actual meaning. So we're just backing it up a little bit.
Because movement shows what? If something moves, it's alive. Okay? Again, they can't take a rocket and go up and check it out. They believe that this is there's a solid expanse over them. Another passage. Job 37, verse 18. Can you, like him, speaking of Job, drawing the dramatically poor comparison of God and Job, of course we know who's going to win there, but can you, like him, spread out the skies hard, kazakh, hard as cast metal, mutsak, as a metal mirror. Mutsak is the same word used in the casting of the laver, the tabernacle where they would wash. It's solid. It's also the same terminology used for flint rock. Again, these passages point to the belief that there's a dome, the sky's a dome, and it's solid. And God lives above it, we live below it. Job 22, did I skip one? Did I not? No, I didn't. But you say, what does God know? Can he judge through the deep darkness? Thick clouds veil him so that he does not see, and he walks on the vault of heaven. That's where God lives. It's his address. And before we think, oh, that's quaint, how cute. We think that, don't we? If a little child would ask you, where does God live? Up there. Is there something wrong with that answer? I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Use it, because there's the sense that God lives off planet. Why? Because he created the earth for us. Mm-hmm. He doesn't need it. He's independent of it. He transcends it. That's all it is. It's very normal. Amos 9:6, he builds his upper chambers in the heavens and founds his vault upon the earth, the vault upon the earth, who calls for the waters of the sea and pours them out in the surface of the earth. The Lord is his name. And Psalm 29, the Lord sits enthroned over the flood. Let's go back here. We talk about the middle tier now, the earth. Here's a God's eye view of the world. If God is sitting above the firmament and looking down at it, what does he see? This is where we get Genesis 1:9. God said, let the waters under the heavens be gathered together into one place. Waters, plural, one place. How can you get all the waters in one place and then still call them seas? And the dry land appeared. That's how you get it. All the waters, one place, earth, but they're still seas, again, depending on what direction you're coming from or where you're at. Because if you're over here, you're going to call this something sea, and you can't really see what's going on over here. So if you live on the other side, that's another sea. But you got all the seas together. Proverbs 8, when he established the heavens, I was there when he drew a circle on the face of the deep. Circular. He made firm the skies above, so on and so forth. Here's an interesting one. He has inscribed a circle on the face of the waters at the boundary between light and darkness. What's the boundary between light and darkness? Think about it. You all know the answer to this. What's the boundary? Think literally. What's the boundary
absence or
between light
opposite of that?
and darkness? Does it get dark here? Does it get light here? Where's the boundary? The horizon.
Okay.
That's the boundary between light and darkness. If this is your view of the world, your horizon is right here. That's where the firmament ends and it meets. It's stopping the waters from going any further. And it goes all the way around.
Oh.
Because if you're on a circular Earth, everywhere you look, there's a horizon.
Okay, what he's saying makes a lot of sense. Now he's saying from your perspective. So they're okay, artists would know this too, and I don't pretend to be an artist. I don't understand how they can do what they do. But if you start talking to artists when they display perspective in their drawings, they will tell you they would get this. Absolutely, 100%. I'm convinced they would. God in some scriptures is speaking from his perspective. And sometimes he's speaking from you, the creation's perspective. There's a lot going on with that concept if you think about it. I don't want to spend a lot of time on explaining this out, and he's already trying to, and I would defer to his expertise here on this. But if you sit and take some time to really drink this in and think about things from God's perspective when he's explaining something, and really difficult concepts that he's not going to sit there and go into a whole entire scientific tryst, uh, he's just going to hint at something. And he does that all the time. I've already provided an example. In Leviticus, just really quick, in Leviticus, he doesn't explain to you the entire makeup and entomology of the germ world, does he? He just gives you good practical information to avoid the spread of infectious disease. So, one thing he says is to wash your hands in running water. He doesn't want it to be still water where all the germs would collect and pool and then become a source of infection. So, he has all, and Leviticus is not a fun book, but if it's important, it's needed, it's necessary. And the point is he tells you the directive of what you need to know for just one example of many in Leviticus, which is also where the feasts are, another topic. But he doesn't sit there and explain out to you, well, see, there's these little things that are invisible that you can't see with your eye, and they'll multiply and they'll make you sicky poo and blah, 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 blah. He doesn't go into that. He gives you the most important needed information on the face of the earth to get you through the practical concept of what the point of the Bible is written to do, which is to help you with your cure, not to give you a scientific overview of everything. So when he gives a little hint on something from the Bible, people will take that to the wooden literal and forget about things being from different perspectives, which would very much be the case from the creator's POV to the creation's POV. Go out to the ocean, look out at the horizon from your perspective, little 5 or 6 foot person on planet Earth. Does not the ocean look as if it is flat? But does that mean that that is the makeup of how the earth is just because it's your perception of that standing there? You're not raised up in the air, you're not raised up in the second heaven to look down, but God is. So there's something to be considered with this idea of whose perspective is being talked about, and much more could be said about that. But when you really, so if you just even study how artists do their horizons and stuff like that, these are the things that you need to consider with these passages. So I'm going to let him try to explain this to you because he's probably way better at it than I am. But just consider things from that POV and not just a picture that people have crafted and then people pouring English only Bible con- uh, uh, um, definitions into scriptures and then going, this is what it means. Let's vet this to make sure that we're being told the correct thing.
The place where light and dark meet. Again, I told you I'm going to be a flaming literalist tonight. I'm going to say that I'm going to take them absolutely at their word. Vault of the heavens, pillars and mountains. The pillars of heaven tremble and are astounded at his rebuke. Oh, that's just metaphor and poetry. Yeah, to us it is. If you ask them, it's like, well, there's that big mountain thing. I mean, that's holding up the sky. Duh. If you don't believe it, go find, I mean, how are you going to find out any different? Obviously we can, but, the means to do that isn't with them. 2 Samuel 28, the earth reeled and rocked, the foundations of the heavens trembled and quaked because God was angry. Windows and doors. On that day all the fountains of the great deep burst forth, and the windows of the heavens were opened. The fountains of the deep and the windows of the heavens were closed. Psalm 78, yet he commanded the skies above and opened the doors of heaven. Again, familiar phrases. Pillars under the earth, supporting the earth. Again, look at the language. For the pillars of the earth are the Lord's, and on them he has set the world. You betcha. It's not Marduk. It's not that silly Ta in Egypt. It's Yahweh who did that. Isn't that amazing? I mean, an Israelite would want you to marvel. He would think you're insane if you didn't. Either that or a pagan. Job 38:4. Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? On what were its bases sunk? Or who laid its cornerstone? He set the earth on its foundations so that it should never be moved. To him who spread out the earth above the waters. Again, think of the circle with the earth in the middle. For his steadfast love endures forever. Sheol, the last level. Sheol is a Hebrew word. In the ESV, I think in most cases they just have Sheol. It's Sheol in Hebrew. It can mean the hole that they just dug to put you in when you're dead. Or it can mean the underworld. Okay. I said the very first week, we have this idea that hell, the underworld, is down there. Where do we get that? We get that from the Old Testament. Okay, that's just, do you think hell has a latitude and a longitude? Does it have an address? I mean, could you put it into your GPS and it would take you there? I mean, it doesn't have latitude and longitude. These are what are called cosmic geographical terms. Heaven is where God is. It doesn't have a latitude and a longitude. But if you try to describe it, you're forced, because you live and you're limited by space and time.
Yep.
You're forced to use geographical language. Over there, up there, down here.
I would also say as well that we are missing perspective of the true and complete nature of what the spiritual realm, what the makeup of what constitutes a spiritual realm is, fully, beyond just shadows of outlines of concept that we grapple with, that we try to draw simple pictures of. I would say that us being in the fallen state and in the fallen flesh gives us a very limited understanding of the full breadth and height and depth of all that is constituted in this spiritual reality. So, for instance, we know that Satan walks to and fro the earth, right? This is spoken about in Job. Some people would say that he even takes up residence, or has, as the traveler inside the earth. And I don't want to get a whole bunch into hollow earth, but there's talk about this. And whether you believe that or not, or have you looked into that or not, I don't know. But we also know that Satan's kingdom is also a spiritual one. And we know that when, for example, people start doing yoga or meditation or some type of spiritual practice where now you are yoking, I said yoking, the physical reality, calling on a spiritual kingdom and a spiritual power, there is a horrific overlapping of those two realities in this time space, whatever you want to call it. continuum, whatever, that goes beyond our ability to fully understand and perceive. What does that mean? That the spiritual realm comes and opens up and demonic entities go around you, touch objects if they want to, and for those that don't have the Holy Spirit, can take up residence in you. We don't have everything that there is to know about that, but we have an outline of it. Could that be what's happening with this?